The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and/or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
The Avengers Initiative, WandaVision.
Welcome to the season finale of the Avengers Initiative, WandaVision, a PapiChuloRadio.com original series. Papi Chulo Radio, celebrating a decade of podcasting excellence. Today is Monday, March 8th, 2021, and I'm your host, Jeffrey Aruz. During this podcast, we'll be having an in-depth discussion on Disney Plus's WandaVision. Please welcome my co-hosts, Priscilla Rocha.
Oh, damn, I had a perfect line for this, but I completely forgot about it. Hey, everybody.
How dare you forget your perfect line? My heart is broken. And Professor X.
Hello, everyone.
Professor X, was that your perfect line?
I was going to try to work something about only the person who put the hexes in place can make the perfect line, but I thought I'd be stretching the point too far.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, let's jump into... Y'all are too much. Let's jump into our discussion of Season 1, Episode 9, which was titled The Series Finale and debuted March 5th, 2021 via Disney+. Here's the official synopsis of the episode. The events of WandaVision come to a head, and the destinies of all who took part are determined. Hella vague, yet hella on the nose, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm sure y'all do. Okay, so this is it. This is the last episode of WandaVision. Was it as satisfying as you thought it would be? We will find out, because we're going to jump into this discussion right now. And I want to start off by talking about Vision. Let's get rid of our double vision. But let's talk about both visions, because let's be real. This series finale was in essence the action-y part of the Marvel movie that we were watching. This Marvel movie in 9 parts over the course of allegedly 6 hours, according to Kevin Feige. We got to the part where it's just the big battle. And so in essence, the majority of the episode was the big battle. So instead of focusing on the biggest battle, let's talk about the smaller battle, which was the Hex's vision versus the White Vision. So, Professor, talk to me about the fight, because it started off as a physical fight, and then it went from the physical to the metaphysical. Olivia Newton-John is probably loving all the physicality. Let's talk about it.
Well, I'd just like to once again step up and say you got the White Vision and he's the bad guy. Once again, the white guy is the bad guy. Representation matters, Marvel.
I know, right?
Say nothing of Haywood.
We'll talk about him in a moment.
I love the way it played out. The fact that, they were two very evenly matched combatants. And Vision won by talking it out. It says something about Paul Bettany as an actor that, his quiet moments, famously, with Wanda last epistron, but also, in the Age of Ultron, towards the end of the movie, the quiet moment he has just talking with Ultron before he has to destroy him. He's a character. He's an actor who brings such gravitas to, a character that, when you think about it, he's a synthezoid. And, last episode when Darcy was sort of explaining, so I was created to take over the world and then I died. Yeah. Then you died again. It would be so easy for that to be seen as silly. He gives it such gravitas, as someone who, has been around since the beginning of the Marvel Universe. He's been around as long as Robert Downey Jr. and, now, spoiler alert, will be around longer than Robert Downey Jr., presumably. I really liked it. I like the fact that, as I say, that our vision, colored vision, not in that way, Wanda's vision, was able to win by, invoking a philosophical argument. And also, are you familiar with the his and White Vision just goes, of course, as if so obvious. But basically establishing that. And I was really afraid that it was going to be that, Wanda's vision was going to go, but your programming says that you are to kill the Vision, but are you the Vision or am I the Vision? And, in a Star Trekian sort of, does not compute, must destroy self. But it wasn't that. It was that he was able to get through to him, unlock those memories. So now you have this, this new Vision, which was the old Vision, who goes off and has all the memories, but none of the emotional component, which is very, comics accurate to what happened in the Vision. My only problem with that is that, in the middle of the fight between the two Visions, if he suddenly had all of his memories restored, why did he run away? Where did he go? Why did he fly away? That didn't make any sense to me. In the moment, he should have joined the fight. He should have been there, helping fight Haywood because, Haywood was the one who was trying to turn him into a weapon. Unless he didn't know Haywood was there and he was trying to fly off to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. I don't know. That was one of the very few negatives I thought about the episode was that, I really didn't understand what old Vision's justification for that was, but it did allow, our Vision to be with his family for the final confrontation. So felt maybe like it was a bit more of a story armor thing than something that made sense from a character point of view.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. My assumption is that they want to continue this on in probably one of the films, and we will more than likely get the answer there. It did seem just a little weird that we were introduced to this character and then bam, he just sort of flies off. I wish that there would have been just a tiny bit of closure with that, but I guess, if this is just a piece of the larger MCU puzzle, I guess it sort of makes sense that they wouldn't want to just tie up every single loose end in this episode, which they didn't, to be quite honest. I mean, the way that the episode ends, there's still a lot of questions. Priscilla, what about you? What'd you think of the Vision on Vision action?
Vision on Vision. Vision rolled 20 on his persuasion checks. He totally, just demolished him with rationality, and it was awesome. And just totally took something that should have been difficult to parse through and was just kind of no, think about this logically for a second. Are you the Vision or am I the Vision? Let's go through this together. And he made it seem so easy for the other Vision to understand that no, both of them are the Vision. And it was just, I don't know, it was a beautiful work of logic and craftsmanship, and it was just great. I loved it. I think that was my favorite battle of the episode.
Interesting. That's fascinating. I thought they handled it really well, and it was very Vision-like. And I am really excited to see what they're going to do with the White Vision. We've talked about this White Vision before, and it's fascinating how they did it. I think the major theory online, someone that I just kept on reading and reading and reading, was people thought that both of the Visions were going to combine. And they didn't do that, but they did, in essence, awaken White Vision. White Vision was, his vision was cloudy, Operation Cataract. He did not have all of the memories of Vision, and it's just I'm saying Vision. And Wanda's Vision unlocked New Vision's memories, not Vision, but he unlocked New Vision's memories, and I really loved that moment. You could see his eyes, turn in essence normal-ish, instead of that, the glossy, sort of crystallized, cloudy eyes, and I thought that was a really neat effect. I was hoping that his fake crystal, I guess, or whatever, the little thing that he's got on the forehead that's in the shape of the Infinity Stone, I was hoping that would turn yellow, or that the light would turn yellow, but it didn't. It just sort of rebooted, per se. But yeah, I really enjoyed this moment. I thought it was beautifully done and beautifully acted by Paul Bettany. He's playing two characters, He has to fight himself, so the complexities of that is kind of crazy because he's got to shoot everything, with his face forward from one character's POV and then everything from the other character's POV. So that's double the choreography that he has to memorize because, there were lots of close-ups and that sort of thing. So that was probably an incredibly time-consuming fight sequence to film. Point blank and the period. Yeah. So let's talk about the two storylines that were kind of wrapped up. At least it seems like it. So we got the answer to who Ralph is, and it was a boner joke.
Boner.
Boner. Yes. So Pietro Maximoff, fake Pietro, as we will call him, he was keeping Monica captive in the attic, in the attic of Agatha's house. We find out that that's his house actually, and that he's being controlled by Agatha through the necklace that he was wearing. And there's this whole back and forth with Monica and him where he uses powers and that sort of thing, but then she ends up taking him down, rips off the necklace, and we realize that he's just, in essence, like an actor, I guess, that lives in Westview, whose name is Ralph Boner. Yeah, that's it. I think it was kind of a gag for anybody out there that thought he was going to end up being more than just a normal person. Because there were a lot of theories online where everyone was like, oh, the X-Men, this is how they're going to come over, and they're going to cross over, and all of the X-Men stuff with Fox is going to be real in the MCU. And it wasn't. And I don't think any of us here ever really thought that. We always thought that maybe there would be more than meets the eye with Ralph, but we never thought that it was the X-Men were going to come through and that would be the multiverse and that sort of thing. So what did we think of the Ralph reveal? Did we laugh? Were we annoyed? Yeah, I mean, I read mixed reviews online. So some people got the gag and some people were just like, really? I'll just open it up to the floor. Whoever wants to talk about Ralph Boner.
I fucking loved it. Oh God, I'm so happy. I feel like it was explained in the best way possible, and I feel like people are mad because it might exit out the X-Men, or at least the way it's portrayed in the future, in Days of Future Past, because now you can't have that Dimensions Pietro with Ralph Boner. It doesn't make sense. But the writers, they can find ways around things. If they want to put X-Men in there, they'll find a way to put X-Men's dimension on there. Like, it doesn't get rid of your fantasy to have Ralph Boner in this series. It's just a tongue-in-cheek, like, thumb in the eye of the viewer. It's funny. I found it hilarious to find him be a pathetic nerd who was in the attic of Agnes just waiting for signs of what to do next and wearing a beaded necklace to get his powers. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I think people have to realize that the X-Men were literally sort of just given back to MCU, Marvel. So it's going to take some time for them to develop their own X identity. And the MCU will create its own X-Men that fit in line with the MCU. Now, if we do start exploring the multiverse, there are rumors about Spider-Man maybe exploring the multiverse. There are rumors, well, I shouldn't even call them rumors. The actual name of the next Doctor Strange movie has multiverse in the damn title. If they want to explore the multiverse and they end up on the Earth where it's whomever, whether it's Hugh Jackman as an X-Men or, Halle Berry or Evan Peters as an X-person, then they'll do that and it'll be a fun little cameo. But I think outside of a fun little cameo, I don't think any of those X people will be ported over to the MCU. I could be wrong, but I feel like the MCU is going to establish its own identity with the X-Men. Professor, what about you? Any thoughts on Ralph or anything?
Yeah, it's just one of those things, we talk occasionally about, toxic fandom and stuff like that. I found, some of the, the responses to the Pietro reveal, it's the people, they have this sense of, oh, here's what I think it means. And then when it's not that, they react, with such anger, that, it's like, because you guessed wrong, therefore the show is wrong. No, they did their thing, and we made wrong guesses, throughout the series, but that doesn't leave us crapping all over the show. I think it's that sense of, fan entitlement as much as anything else, that people have the sense that, they've not only got to produce something that, looks really good and is well written and everything like that, but it has to be exactly the way you want it to be. And I think that's, that's sort of, a toxic nature of fandom these days. And, when people are criticizing it for not doing exactly what they would have done. So, yeah, I mean, did I see him, Pietro turning out to be, a washed up out of work actor who was just living in the neighborhood? No. Did I like it? Yes. I thought it was great. Just having him as this, this puka shell wearing Dorcas was great, because, we were saying, oh, he's Mephisto or, oh, he's, setting up the X-Men. Or no, he was just another person who was pressed into service. And to what extent, the creators of the show were intentionally toying with the fans, I don't know, because this was the first, Disney Plus show that Marvel has done. I think, going forward, I think they're going to learn some lessons from this in terms of, dangling stuff in front of the viewers. And certainly I think they've learned a lot about what their stars are allowed to say to the press during it.
Yeah.
But no, I think overall it was, it was well done. And it was a great reveal, expecting him to be someone significant. No, he was just like everyone else in the community, except he was under Agatha's control, not Wanda. So I thought it was great.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, we armchair theorize here, and, it's fun, just, noticing stuff and wondering, is this where it's going to go? But for us, at least, we've been doing these podcasts now for many, many years, and I've never gotten the vibe from any of my co-hosts, either you two or anyone else, that we all get mad when we're wrong. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always fun when we get something right, but we never go crazy if we aren't right about things. There was this, I can't even remember the title, but on some website, someone wrote sort of like a satire article, which basically was like, and I'm completely paraphrasing because I don't remember the exact title of the article, but it was like, I hate the WandaVision finale because all my theories were wrong. And it was so funny because it was basically like, people on Twitter sort of bitching about the episode because what they thought was going to happen didn't end up happening. And I'm like, good grief, people, just watch the show and enjoy it. Now, did the actors sometimes say a little something that maybe did hype things up in a certain kind of way? I mean, we'll see what happens moving forward when, other actors from other shows end up doing press. The Paul Bettany thing, he was like that he was going to work with somebody that he's always wanted to work with. I think that was kind of tongue-in-cheek because clearly it was him working with himself. I think the one that some of the fandom is kind of latching onto is that Elizabeth Olsen said that there was going to be like a major appearance. And at the end of the day, I think she was talking about Evan Peters. And even TV Line, when they wrote about the finale, they ended up saying something to the gist of that, per their knowledge, Elizabeth Olsen isn't really on social media. And for those out there that didn't know this, that don't follow social media, the Evan Peters information was sort of kind of leaked last year. So people were expecting him to show up. TV Line was basically guesstimating that she didn't know that that had leaked before, and so since she doesn't have a big social media presence, that's probably what she was talking about. We'll see what ends up happening.
Also, it's not like she volunteered that information. She was asked a question by an interviewer, do we have a Luke Skywalker level cameo coming up? And she, obviously thinking of Evan Peters, said yes. I mean, that was all she did.
Yeah.
But it led to all this speculation. It's going to be Fassbender. It's going to be McKellen. It's going to be Doctor Doom. It's going to be Reed Richards. It's going to be yada yada. And you guessed wrong, people. Accept it and move on. But yeah, it just I'm just thinking about this because I was listening to a Kevin Smith podcast in which he was talking about someone emailing him and telling him why he was wrong to like WandaVision and everything like that. And it's like, why waste your time on such stupid toxicity? If you didn't like it, fine, don't watch it.
Ain't that the truth? And I will say, I had read about Evan Peters being on WandaVision, but I was still surprised when he showed up in a good way.
I had not read about it, so I like Elizabeth Olsen. Well, I like Elizabeth Olsen. I'm also not on social media, so.
There you go.
So when Elizabeth Olsen and I meet, that's going to be something we can bond over. Huh? I understand you're also not on social media.
Exactly. And then you tell her, you got it, dude.
I would not do that.
Okay, fine. Moving right along. So another loose end that was sort of wrapped up was the Hayward storyline. So we'll focus on Hayward and his comeuppance. So at a certain point, Wanda ends up lowering the hex to allow the Westview residents to leave. Hayward and his sword people end up, in essence, invading. And there's a whole stick-em-up situation with Hayward. The kids end up neutralizing the military, but Hayward, proving that he is the most horrible human being on this planet, started to fire at the children. Because, as if he wasn't already someone we hated.
For no goddamn reason.
It's like you have to shoot fire at the damn children. So Monica ends up stepping in. We see all of her fantastic powers in full effect. We also see, oh gosh, is it, I always forget, is Tommy or Billy is the one that does the magic? Tommy, it's, oh gosh. Billy, okay. Billy ends up stopping one of the bullets, and Hayward, because he doesn't have any more bullets, ends up fleeing. He gets in a car, and Darcy, with her funnel cake van, ends up crashing into him. And we see later on that he's sort of being carted off in handcuffs. Yay. I'm assuming we're all happy with this. But Priscilla, your take on Hayward being taken down.
That was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, why did you shoot at the kids? Like, that was gonna achieve nothing. Like, they're fake. Or even if you don't know they're fake. Like,
how dare you call them fake?
Like, even if they're kids, like, they're kids. What is shooting them gonna do for you? Like, if they die, their superpowered parents are just gonna come and clobber you to death. Like, what is that going to do? What is that going to accomplish? Nothing. It's just gonna make more of a mess. I don't know. It was just more of a mustache twirling thing. So I didn't particularly like that as a writing thing. I just think it was meant to make him more of a villain in the eyes of the viewers. And I thought it was a cheap ploy, personally. But it was there also to bring out, I forgot her name.
Monica.
Yeah, Monica's powers.
Yeah, which was an awesome moment and great visual effect as well.
Yeah, that was nice. I have no idea how that worked. I know she has powers over the visual light spectrum, but, like, how does that work with bullets?
I would assume she transformed her body into lights, per se, because that's how it was able to penetrate her body and go directly through her without hurting her.
Yeah, but then wouldn't it have just, like, have gone straight through her and, like, have injured the kids? And
yeah,
not
because they sort of, they fell when they went through her. So that I don't know. We still really, well, A, she doesn't know what her powers are, and B, because she doesn't know what her powers are, we don't know what her powers are. So that's something that will have to be explored in the next thing that we see Monica Rambeau in.
Yeah, I agree.
Professor, what about you? Oh, wait,
okay.
Priscilla, continue. I'm sorry.
Other than that, like I liked the ending. I liked Darcy coming in with her one moment of the episode to just be like, have fun in prison. That was nice.
Yeah, I like that moment for her, but I wish we had a little bit more. People on the internet were maybe guessing that maybe there was some COVID precautions or something. Because even that moment, it looked almost like it was green screen. Like maybe she wasn't even on set. To me, I don't know if maybe I'm just reading too much into the visual. Professor, what about you? Your thoughts on how Hayward was taken down and Darcy's little cameo in the episode?
Well, I did like the fact that we at least got a little bit of Darcy, so she wasn't completely forgotten. But yeah, I do agree that this was a COVID quince that, because, they couldn't go back and shoot pickups and stuff like that. They probably just had to. And then, later on, explaining Darcy away by saying that, she didn't want to stick around for the debrief, as if you could actually leave that situation, what, did she just walk away? No, that it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think it has to be, where they were writing around that Kat Dennings was, probably off doing something else by the time they got around to fixing that. As for Hayward, wow, total dick move. Once again, white guy, total jerk. Again, there was nothing in his character that would suggest that. I think that, as Priscilla said, the only reason they did it was that Monica could demonstrate that she's got powers. It just, otherwise it's such a pointless thing to do. That section in there, I think it was just, so that we could demonstrate that, Monica does have powers, and also to show us that young Billy has the ability to stop bullets as well, meaning that, her manifestation of powers was maybe not necessary. As for how she stopped the bullets, it depends on what version of Monica Rambeau they go, Photon, Spectrum, Captain Marvel. She's got one other, but she does have the ability to transform her body into different forms of energy. So I think what they'll do here is say that, rather than transform yourself into a light, which, as Priscilla points out, the bullets would just have gone through, not even slowed down, like a plasma energy or something like that sucked the kinetic energy out of them. I think it was to show us that, okay, she got the powers, but also to give her the hero moment, right?
Yeah.
Because she, had a pretty good moment getting away from Pietro earlier in the episode. But, the fact that she did, leap in front of the kids to save them, that reinforced, her willingness to go into the hex to help out Wanda and, to protect the family. So I think it was done less to make Hayward, look like the evil jackass he is, and more to show us Monica as the hero, would be my guess anyway.
Okay, I can dig that. I like that.
Because I don't think Hayward is worth devoting the time to just to make him do something as evil as that.
Yeah, no, that's true. Even though he was hella evil. Let's be real. Okay, so let's talk about the big fight. There is a lot to discuss in this big fight, so I'm just going to have it like open discussion style. I do want to save the climax to the big fight as its own separate thing. So let's just talk about anything and everything from the beginning and the middle of the big fight between the witches, Agatha Harkness and Wanda Maximoff. And the first thing that I want to sort of just ask everybody about is, have we noticed the small, subtle Wizard of Oz references throughout the series between these two? Because there was the most overt one here in this episode with the feet under, it wasn't a house.
The shoes under the house.
Yeah, not the feet, but yeah, the shoes under the car when it was thrown at Agatha. And then in last week's episode, she said, "Your magic's no good here," which I believe is a Wizard of Oz line. And there was another moment. I didn't notice it just because I haven't seen the Wizard of Oz in a long time. But the internet, when Agnes was in the car in the Halloween episode dressed as the witch, and she was talking to the internet was saying that there were a couple of lines that Agnes told Vision that apparently were kind of Wizard of Oz-ish. So is that something that either of you noticed, the Ozian type of thing? I know it's just sort of like a little wink to the viewers, but I thought it was interesting because the storyline is about these two powerful witches, and so they threw in a couple little nods to the land of Oz.
Except that The Wizard of Oz wasn't really about two witches facing off. It was about Dorothy fighting the witches. So
well, no, true, but because there's a witch there, and we're dealing with witches. I just thought it was funny that they decided to have these little subtle homages to the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I don't think the feet under the car was subtle. That was straight out. Yeah. And by the way, think about what that means. It means that Agnes got hit by the car and left her boots there as a visual joke.
Well, yeah, I believe she's the type of person that would. All the shade she was throwing? Come on. She'd do that.
A girl from a color world goes into a black and white world, goes into a color world afterwards. Like it's
too.
It's very much Wizard of Oz.
Yes, I forgot even to mention that, but that's true. Yeah, I was thinking of that when I first was sort of reading about the Oz references. Yeah, it's fascinating. All right, so Agatha Harkness throwing a whole bunch of shade to Wanda Maximoff. A big fight in the air. We got a lot of exposition about stuff, about the Scarlet Witch, about the Darkhold. We got official confirmation that book from the basement was the Darkhold, which means a whole lot of stuff. There was a great meme on social media that basically said, WandaVision fans, what's that Darkhold book? And then it said Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans, and it showed an image from Grand Theft Auto with one of the characters saying, "Ah, shit, here we go again." So for those of us that watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we know a little bit about the Darkhold. We'll have to wait and see what the MCU decides to do with it. But we got it reintroduced or introduced to the Darkhold. What do we think of the fight? A lot of it was exposition-y. In essence, it was Agatha telling us, the audience, telling us, but also telling Wanda about herself, about who the Scarlet Witch is. We also got a bit of Agatha's motivation. So we've been on a roller coaster with Agatha. We thought she was maybe going to be the Agatha Harkness from the comics, a mentor to Wanda. Then Agatha all along. For a brief moment, we thought maybe was this Agatha all along. Then, going through Wanda's life, we realized it was Wanda all along. But it seemed like Agatha was kind of curious about Wanda's powers. And then in this episode, we really got the full enchilada in regards to Agatha's endgame, for lack of a better word. She wanted to take Wanda's powers because she felt that Wanda wasn't really using her powers properly and she doesn't even really understand them. So give me your powers. Be in good hands. And so we saw Agatha as not just a jealous person, but a power-hungry person. So what did we think of this, Professor?
I think, it was... I don't think it was Catherine Hahn's strongest episode. She's been much better before, but I think that's because of what she had to do in this episode. From a production point of view, Catherine Hahn spent a huge chunk of this episode hanging from a wire in front of a green screen, screaming,
bloody murder,
background information. So it's tough. You couldn't get the close-ups, you couldn't get the subtlety. I also didn't like the Agatha makeup they gave her. It looked really kind of weird. That was a little odd. I did like the fight itself. There were a couple of things that I was totally thrown by. The first was that after Scarlet Witch, the first time that Agnes was able to steal her power, and Elizabeth Olsen's hand went dark. I thought, they're going to cut her hand off because that's a Marvel trope. They didn't, pleasantly. I was really expecting it, though. The other thing that threw me was that I was thinking that, Wanda would beat her not by using her magic, but by using her power. So I really thought that when she got into her head and took her back into the past, that was going to be how she beat Agnes. Yeah. So I was quite surprised when that didn't work out, as, let's face it, so was the Scarlet Witch.
I know, right? Because that was old school Wanda.
And it's kind of, and again, the reason I bought into it is it's one of those superhero cliches that, when your new stuff fails you go back to the basics. It's a classic Iron Man trope that, the new armor has failed. I'll just climb back into my old armor and, I'll still save the day, or, find some other way to do it, not using that. And it's an absolute comic book trope, and they totally have me biting into it. Now, that said, I thought it was a great trick on her part. And it did allow, Agatha to, in a typical supervillain monologuing way, give her the clue that she needed in order to defeat her, back in the real world. But yeah, so those were two things about the fight that totally threw me.
Very interesting. Yeah. I also thought that, Wanda using her old trick, which we've seen be very successful. I mean, that was a part of a whole damn movie, Age of Ultron, which, we keep on referencing here on this podcast, but go check it out because Age of Ultron set the seeds for so much of what happened in, the second half of the MCU. But, for a moment there, I thought she was going to beat her that way too. But then we saw how powerful Agatha was, which was a good thing. I mean, it was great that we have these two powerful magical beings going at it. Like, it just would have been horrible if they would have just made immediately weakened Agatha. So I'm glad, they were pretty much matched up until a certain point. Priscilla, what about you? Your thoughts on the big fights? We'll be talking about a certain little something in a moment. So just focusing specifically on the fight, what did you think?
I thought for sure, I agree that I thought that her mind meld trick, where she takes you back into like your worst nightmare, I thought that was gonna work. So when it didn't work, when that totally like went all Marvel Zombies on her, that was weird.
That's funny.
And I was like, and it just goes to show the same thing you said, that they're evenly matched, even in terms of the same people that should protect her won't protect her and rise up against her the same way they rose up against Agatha.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will say, I know that the professor kind of, gave a little bit of a thumbs down to Catherine Hahn. I loved all the shade that she kept on throwing. Like, she might have been spitting a lot of exposition, and unfortunately she was given the job of having to spit out a lot of exposition for the Scarlet Witch and for us, the viewers, to understand stuff. But the shade that she kept on throwing, like, oh, look, your ex and your current, at the same party. Like, there was just so much, the little lines of her just, yeah, it was,
I loved that.
Yeah.
I thought it was so catty.
It was, like, there was a moment where I literally thought she was just going to start cackling. Like, and I think she actually did at a certain point, but...
She reminds me of Regina so much from Once Upon a Time.
Season 1 Regina.
Huh?
Season 1 Regina. Like, when she was, like, the evil queen.
Evil Regina. Yeah.
Yeah.
Evil Queen Regina.
Oh, God, we need Lana Parrilla in the MCU now that you're saying that. Oh, she'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
More Hispanic in the MCU just in general.
Well, yeah, that's true. Hey, you ain't lying. Okay, so let's talk about the climax of this fight. So we got a lot of exposition. We got information about the Darkhold and the book and all that kind of stuff. And so, we get to a point where it looks like Agatha has won. But then we all have to remember that there was a specific clip included on the previously on that we needed to remember, and it was the runes. And during their big fight up in the air, Wanda was throwing magic at Agatha because, in essence, she was like, take all my magic. But she was also throwing magic against the barrier. And I'll be honest, the first time I watched it, I didn't even notice that. So the runes came as a shock, even though we saw the dam previously on. So the runes, Agatha can't use her magic, Wanda absorbs all the magic back, she gets in her kick-ass, badass Scarlet Witch outfit, we drop back down to the ground, and Wanda puts Agatha in a prison, and that prison is Westview, and she transforms her into the role that she was playing all along, the nosy neighbor. And yeah, we see Agatha transformed. Although Agatha does tell her, you're gonna need me. I know stuff. But Wanda's like, I know where to find you. Now, I know, Professor, you were talking stuff about Catherine Hahn. Can I just say, the moment when she got transformed back into Agnes, Catherine Hahn played her in a very different way. Like, you could see that she was, in essence, stuck in a prison, in a mental prison. And there was just something about her performance. Like, she's putting on the fake smile and the whole sitcom veneer, but there's like a sadness and a fear or something behind her eyes that I thought Catherine Hahn played beautifully. That's just my opinion.
I completely agree. And I want to, stand up against you guys who are saying that I've been saying that, Catherine Hahn was not great in this episode. I'm just saying she wasn't as good as in previous episodes because of what she was forced to do. Scream exposition while hanging on wires in front of a green screen. You can't be subtle when you are standing up in the middle of, when you are standing that far away from people shouting exposition at them. But no, I agree that it was a great resolution. I remember watching it the first time and noticing that, why is she missing? That doesn't make any sense. And in fact, the first time she misses, Agatha sort of looks off as if to wonder, well, what was that all about? But yeah, and as you're watching it, the second time it's like, oh man, this is so clever because, she has learned something. She's realized that even though she is a font of, tremendous power, power without precision is chaos. And therefore, by learning, she got the lesson from Agatha, got the killer line, thanks for the lesson, and was able to win. And again, this is just a minor thing. And part of it is that, with so much, MCU stuff, the moment where, Agatha, thinks that she's got all the power and is going to, fire back at her, that was just like Thanos snapping after the Infinity Gems were taken from him. So, or the Infinity Stones, I keep forgetting this MCU. So, there is that danger that, there's so many things, in the same way that Agatha taking magic from people. Well, isn't that a lot like Baron Mordo taking magic from people over in Doctor Strange? And, certain tropes, I think, can repeat, but very well done. I thought that Catherine Hahn did a great job of selling it. And even more so, though, Elizabeth Olsen, as she, you realize that she was just playing possum. She was just setting up the situation and, the power flows back into her. She doesn't lose one of her hands. And as you mentioned, wow, what a fantastic looking costume. Not too revealing, great color palette, and again, we saw how cheesy it would have looked if, in the Halloween episode, if she actually had a comics accurate version of the Scarlet Witch costume. This is a great looking costume. Fabulous. I love the fact it's got a little cape. It's got a cow, like a hood. They managed to find a way to do the Sokovian fortune teller face thing, which is a Scarlet Witch symbol that doesn't look cheesy. It's really a very practical, and the color palette, sort of called back, the colors, vaguely similar to, what she was wearing before. So it was, just really a great look for her. And I love the fact that, rather than banishing Agnes or killing Agnes, she's just locking her way here because, if the Marvel gods, Kevin Feige et al., are kind to us, she'll be back. She has to come back. Catherine Hahn is too great a resource, not just a magical resource, not just an informational resource. She's a Loki level character. She's got to be like when they realized what they had with Tom Hiddleston after the first Thor movie, where they realized, oh, we've got to keep bringing this person back. And I think Catherine Hahn could easily be that for the next phase of the Marvel. She's someone that they have to bring back in some way.
Totally. And I'd love to see her interact with all of our Marvel people, if I'm being honest. I mean, clearly the storyline has to make sense why she's there. But yeah, I'm so glad that they did not kill her off. I'm so glad that she isn't really imprisoned somewhere other than Westview. I mean, it makes the most sense. And clearly the line, "You're going to need me, I know stuff," is setting up for her return. Probably in Doctor Strange too, I'm going to guess, because I'd love to see her with Steven. I think that would be fantastic.
Oh God, that would be so good.
Hell,
or her with Loki.
Or Loki. Hell, I'd watch a Disney Plus series called Agatha All Along, where we follow her throughout the centuries, and
Dude, can you imagine how pissed he would be, like being like, "How the hell did you get the Darkhold from the library of from my library, and she's just gonna be like, "Wouldn't you like to know, handsome? Wink, wink."
I know, right? Because people sort of put two and two together because I haven't seen Doctor Strange in a moment. But apparently in Doctor Strange, there's a moment in the film where they talk about a book is missing. And some people are like, what if that's the Darkhold that Agatha has? Which I'm like, that's interesting. I wonder if they would use that as it being that. It's fascinating. Priscilla, what about you? Agatha and her comeuppance.
I like this is another part of the episode that I loved because um although I had to shove aside a little bit of my logic for a little bit because if the runes held, shouldn't she have stopped flying and just fell to the ground like a brick?
Oh God. That is funny though.
Why did she keep...
I have a little headcanon here. She can't cast a new spell when she's in there.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
I hope so, because otherwise that just makes no sense. But other than that, like, that was my only, like, tiff with that. I liked the scene where she's like, "Okie dokie, artichoke," and she's just blank faced. And I completely agree with you. She acts in a different way. She's not in control of her actions anymore. Someone else is in control of her. Now she's the puppet.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to also say that I hope that they don't just let her go and leave her to just be a TV thing because she's so good. So many people have been like, what do we do if we see her with Loki? What do we do if we see her with the Sorcerer Supreme? What do we do if she gets the Darkhold again? What do we do if she's a good guy? If we can convince her to be good? What are the source of her powers? Why does she so power hungry? Does she need to necessarily suck up the powers of other witches? And all these are questions that could be answered if we just get more of her. And I, for one, am very interested to find out more about her. So as a Marvel fan and as just a fan of TV in general, give me more Catherine Hahn.
100%. Marvel, sign her up for a multiple movie or multiple production deal. So that includes the series and that sort of thing. Yeah.
I did see an interview today in which Catherine Hahn said she's up for anything going forward with Marvel. She had a great time doing it, loves the character, and would love to continue doing it. So pay attention, Marvel.
I love it. I love it. Her kids actually love that she was a part of it. I read, not read, but I heard an interview with her. She was talking about her kids never really being like interested in her the stuff that she's in, and they can't see some of the stuff that she's in because they're like really raunchy R-rated comedies. But she said that the family would sit together Friday nights and they would watch, WandaVision, and the kids actually were pretty impressed with Mom being a part of the MCU. So, let's hope for more stuff with Agatha Harkness. So right now we're going to rewind a little bit because there's a moment that I really want to talk about, and it kind of goes with a moment at the end that we're going to talk about right now as well. So in the middle of this big fight between Agatha and Wanda, we have a moment where the town people surround Wanda. And these are our day players, people we've seen from the start of WandaVision. They surround her, and Agatha starts to awaken them, and their real personalities start coming out. We have Dottie, whose real name is Sarah, begging Wanda to, have her daughter wake up. Everyone is, surrounding her, and Wanda is trying to justify what she's done. Like, you guys are okay, you guys are happy, and the truth bombs from these people around her, where they're talking about being held captive, feeling her nightmares, and all this kind of stuff is just so overwhelming for Wanda that she ends up losing control of her magic. She ends up choking them all out, and then she realizes that she's choking them, and then she removes the choking and that sort of thing, and that's when she opens up Westview to allow them to leave, so that she can so they can be safe, in essence. She ends up having to close the barrier again because she realizes that she's losing her family as well. But the question that I want to ask, because I want to talk about that moment, because it was a chance to see our day players again for one last time, for the most part, at least for one last time, where they affect the plot. Then at the end, after everything sort of gets cleaned up, we have a moment where a question is asked, or at least a comment is made. We have Monica talking to Wanda, and Monica saying something to the gist of, they're never going to know what you gave up. I know we haven't talked about that yet. We're going to talk about that separately. And Wanda's like, they're never going to forgive me. The reason that I'm bringing this point up right now is because I wanted to talk about that moment with our day players, but also this is a conversation that we've had throughout this entire podcast about Wanda being the villain and this sort of thing. So what did we think of that moment with everyone that we've gotten to know from Westview? And do we see Wanda as the villain?
Yes, goddammit. How many times do I have to say? I've been saying this since episode 3. Wanda is the big bad. And that's why this scene was so important, because Wanda had to realize what she'd done. She had to hear it from their mouths to realize, oh, I thought I was doing this, giving everyone a better life. No, you were behaving like a, maniacal supervillain. I think it was really, really important because she had to come to grips with that. She hadn't up until that point. She'd been told, by various people that, she was manipulating them, but whether she was doing it unconsciously, or whether she was, controlling them but didn't realize what they were going through. But to have them say that, we're experiencing your nightmares. My daughter has been locked in her room for months or for weeks or whatever it was. The way they shot it, which was, when the people are waking up, they're coming towards her, waking out of a dream, they're like zombies, which I found very creepy. But no, I think it was super important to have that. And I think, and also to have, Elizabeth Olsen at the end, acknowledge that, they'll never forgive me. And I don't think they should. She did something totally unacceptable to them. This was, an insane, if a villain had done this to a bunch of people, we'd be locking them up in the raft or sending them off to a mystical dimension or whatever. The fact that she gets to walk away is, at least there is the consequence that she has to realize what she's done and deal with it. But I think I'm glad they didn't, wipe their minds or make it all better. In the same way that I said, Vision had to die. There had to be consequences to her actions. Wanda couldn't have the happy ending because of what she did.
Well, technically, she didn't walk away from the problem. She flew away.
She flew. Yes. She started by walking and then flew.
Okay, that is true. Yeah, I'll give you that. I do agree with you. I mean, this was a situation, in essence, it's another Sokovia. It's another Lagos. It's a situation where Wanda, made bad choices, or maybe not bad choices, because I don't want to say all of them were bad choices. Sometimes, she just couldn't help herself. I don't know if really Sokovia was fully her fault. Lagos, they were trying to get somebody, and there was just a lot of collateral damage that, unfortunately, it was because of her magic. So maybe this was really the first time where this was really her fault, whether it was conscious or unconscious. Based off of what we saw at the sort of the iteration of the spell, it didn't really look like she did it on purpose, but it was done by her, and at a certain point she realized what she did, even though she kept on saying, like, I don't remember. At a certain point she did remember, and she could have stopped everything, but she didn't. She tried to hold on to this idyllic world that she created for as long as she could, and unfortunately for her, I mean, it had to end in this episode. Priscilla, your take on the confrontation between our day players and the superstar, as Agnes called her in the previous episode.
Man, that was powerful to get Dottie to basically be like, it doesn't matter if you put my daughter in a bully storyline. I just want to see her. And I'm like, damn, you'd put your daughter through that with superpowered, like, kids just because you want to see her, just because you want to know that your daughter's okay, and that like you don't want to have her like sequestered off anymore. That's powerful stuff if you think about the details a little bit more, and you think more about all of these people being like, we feel your pain, we feel your nightmares, and you're just like, God, what she's inflicting on them. She's torturing these people and she doesn't know. And finally, like, it's being confronted to her face to face.
Mm-hmm. The only person we were missing there was Mr. Hart. That was the only one that I noticed as far as characters we were introduced to. And also, I think the doc...
Have we seen him since the first episode?
We saw him...
I don't think... Was he there in the For the Children Illusion and Glamour? I don't think he was there. I don't think he's been there since episode 1.
He was in the opening credits in the animation for episode 2, and I think he was in episode... No, he wasn't, because we haven't seen him in a color episode. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he was at the benefit either for the children. I think Mrs. Hart was...
And just went off to... He choked on his piece of strawberry and went off to Marvel Land.
I know, right? Yeah. Mrs. Hart was sitting by herself, now that I remember, at the benefit, for the children thing. All right. Yeah, maybe he was just for the first. And the doctor wasn't there, I don't think, from the birth episode. Yeah. Okay. All right. So moving right along.
Wait, can
Yes.
I mention one more thing?
Sure, absolutely.
I was talking to a couple of people online, and they mentioned something that I thought was a little bit interesting. I don't agree with it personally, but they just mentioned something that I thought was a little bit like, that's an interesting opinion to have. And it was that it wasn't a good look on Marvel. It was lazy on the writer's part to put a black woman saying, like, basically saying, yes, it's all right that you enslaved a bunch of people. I would do the same thing too.
Well, I think that's putting a whole lot of words in Monica's mouth on what she said. If there was something that bugged me, I didn't like that Monica was sort of brushing off what Wanda did. I didn't like that that a character had to say that to her, because at the end of the day, even though she's a hero, and I get what Monica's saying, and I get where she's coming from, because she has dealt with power people in the past. I know that Hayward sort of was saying that in the pejorative a couple episodes ago, but she gets power people and that sort of thing. So I think that's where she was coming from, and also because they have the shared bond over grief, and that was the thing that Monica, in essence, thought she could use to get through to Wanda. But I will say that I didn't like that moment for Monica. And well, not even for Monica. I didn't like that moment, sort of, period. I think Wanda really needed to own what she did. Because as the professor said, and I think we all agree, she held a town hostage for, maybe it was just a week, but that was 7 days at least of this town, in essence, being her, what did Agnes called them, meat puppets. Yeah, I mean, it's not a good thing. And I understand what she had to give up to make things right, but she still did that. And well, it wasn't done on purpose. But at a certain point, she kind of realized what she was doing, and she kept on doing it. So, when Monica said that, it was almost like, oh, they really should try to understand what you did. When I think they kind of understand what she did, and they were pretty much not cool with it. Because it wasn't cool.
Yeah, I feel like she could have gotten away with a response like that. It had it ended in the 50s, had it ended in the 60s, but it ended like but she confronted what she was doing in the 70s, and she still kept on going with this.
Yeah.
So yeah, she did, the townspeople deserved more than what
Yeah.
she gave them.
I totally agree. Like, she tried to explain away everything. I gave them, well, I mean, she didn't say this, but Pietro said it. You gave them better jobs. You kept them together. You kept their personalities the same. But you could explain away as much as you want. At the end of the day, she is mind controlling people, and that's no bueno. Like, I am enjoying Elizabeth Olsen. I have enjoyed her from the beginning. I enjoyed her all throughout WandaVision. I enjoy the character, but she did bad stuff. And I do agree with the professor. It is kind of strange that she just got to walk away from it all. And I guess, ramifications and that sort of thing is something that maybe will be dealt with or maybe discussed, in the future in some other property. It wasn't in this one. Yeah. Professor, what are your
Well, you
thoughts
say,
on...
she got to just fly away. Who's going to stop her?
Well, there is that.
She's a Hulk level threat. She's basically, jumping away at the end of the episode. No one's going to stop her. Jimmy's not going to slap the cuffs on her. So I think it's one of the, and I think, and this, might be setting up something that, is often a trope, the nervousness that people feel being around these superpowered beings. All the people, and I think if Marvel's smart, they'll play off this going forward. There's talk about a secret invasion storyline coming up or something like that.
Yes, no, that's 100% coming up.
I think there have to be long-term consequences to this. One of the heroes, in air quotes, did something really terrible to all of these people who are going to be talking about it on social media and sharing it with the world. And she should be held accountable for this. She has, really, been seen by many people to do this, and everyone knows she did it. And you can argue about her motivations and everything like that. That doesn't excuse her actions. Certainly not in the minds of the people who were in the. So I think that's something that could be, an issue going forward. The public attitudes towards heroes, might change as a result of this.
That would be interesting. Yeah, that's something.
It just made me a little bit disappointed in the ending, though. That part of it, just because it made me think that she after everything we went through this entire WandaVision series, she didn't learn a single thing, because she went right back to like opening a bad book, doing bad things in God knows what cabin in the woods somewhere, just to achieve selfish means.
Oh, I disagree entirely. She had complete character development over the course of the series, because she went through the 5 stages of grief. She went from denial at the beginning, where she was recreating that fake world, to acceptance at the end. She realizes what she's lost. She's been changed by that. And she also realizes what she's done as a result of that, and has to, realize, what she did. So I think she had tremendous character growth over the course of the episodes.
I agree with the professor. We'll talk about the ending, because I have my own interpretation of it, which is completely different than yours, Priscilla, and I'm going to be interested in hearing the professor's as well. But in a moment. Before we get into that, let's talk about the end of the actual WandaVision storyline. So, all right, we got Okie Dokie Artichoke. We got Wanda looking badass in her Scarlet Witch attire. And after After, just a brief comment from Vision, Wanda knows exactly what needs to be done, and she starts to lower the barrier. But we have one final moment with our family unit. So they go home, they put the kids to bed. It is incredibly just such family cheese, but in the best way possible. It's just so cute and adorable. They congratulate the kid on, their first big showdown, in essence, with villains and that sort of thing. And Wanda even thanks them for choosing her to be their mom. And then we get one of the best moments of the hour, I would say, with just Wanda and Vision together talking, and Vision asking what he is, and we get an incredible explanation from Wanda as to what he is. Apparently it's a piece of the Mind Stone that lives in her, and it's all of her love and her hopes and that sort of stuff, made real. And as the Hex, approaches, we have that fantastic line of, well, I was, was it a voice without a body without, whatever he said. But at the end of it, he was like, maybe we'll see each other again, or, it stands to, I can't remember the line. I'm so butchering it. But basically at the end of it, the whole thing was like, maybe we'll see each other again. Who knows what, iteration you'll see me again, is basically what he was saying. The Hex washes away from, comes back to, I guess, where the inception was, and we get a beautiful VFX of like the different houses that we saw, and then Vision sort of just disappears. He pixelates out. What a powerful moment. Well, Priscilla was kind of harping in a bad way on the damn Scarlet Witch. I see what you're saying about our girl on social media, Priscilla. So I'll let the professor talk about this first. What'd you think of this end of, in essence, Wanda's vision? Her saying goodbye to the kids and to the vision that she created.
The saying goodbye to the kids was, incredibly powerful. Sort of the parents know what's going to happen, but the kids don't. So the parents are keeping up a brave face, not unlike, Wanda's parents, back in Sokovia, even though there's, the gunfire and stuff outside the window, they're keeping up the illusion for the kids. And I think that's a very true sort of thing that, even when you know something bad is coming, you keep up a brave face for the kids in order to keep their spirits up. I was a little bothered by Wanda's line, unless it means more. Thank you, boys, for choosing me as your mother. I was just waiting for Tommy to go, Mom, that's not how it works. We had literally no say in this. And then, going away so we didn't have to, watch the kids vanish away. It was hard enough watching that with Vision. But yeah, another lovely, touching scene between Vision and Wanda. And then, as you mentioned, I think I said after episode 5 that the series would end with, a tearful Wanda sobbing in a burnt out husk of the house. I wasn't quite right. It was not a burnt out husk. It was a house that had never been built. But aside from that, I kind of nailed that one. Very powerful. And it was nice that, with so much spectacle in this episode to end on the quiet moment, because really for all the spectacle and the magic and who is Mephisto and does this mean the X-Men and where's Reed Richards and all that, what sold this series for me was Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany. Their moments together were absolutely gorgeous. I mean, those two characters are so good together. The two actors are so good together, and the two characters work so well together. To give them that final moment, and the not tragic, not crying about it, but realizing that, hey, they've had this special moment. It's a chance to process what they've gone through, and holding out the hope of something in the future. I thought was a very strong ending. It wasn't classic happy ending because Wanda did have to give up essentially, her ill-gotten gains. But, I think they managed to put the best face possible on it. And, giving her the chance to say her goodbyes to Vision and her goodbyes to the boys, and giving Vision that same opportunity. I thought was, a very, very strong and really touching way to end it.
Very nice. Very well said. Priscilla, what about you? What are your thoughts on Wanda's vision disappearing?
Man, this part of the episode made me cry.
Aw.
I was like, this is beautiful. Oh my God, she's saying goodbye to her kids, and this is the only way she can really say goodbye to them because they're innocent little souls who, like, you can't say you're about to disappear right about now, but, like, it's kind of like the Titanic when the old people, like, went to sleep
Oh,
before
yeah.
they drowned to death and stuff like that. Like, it's that sort of thing with the kids. And it's so sad. And with Vision too, with him basically saying his goodbyes with an "I'll see you again" in another version of me, but I'll see you again. Like, that was just it left me with such hope in my heart. And, like, the two actors just have such great chemistry. Like, they have such love in their heart for one another. Like, you can see it, like, every, like, little, like, face caress that they do to one another. And it looks so good. Like, it broke my heart to see them say goodbye to one another like that. So that's why I cried. I thought it was just beautiful.
Aw. It was beautiful. It was very well done. I'm glad we didn't get to see the kids die. I mean, we basically saw them die earlier in the episode, and that was a lot. In essence, Vision died twice in this episode. Poor Vision. Vision keeps dying, y'all. We need to do something about that. Poor Vision. Okay, so was there anything that I missed as far as the main story? Because I want to start jumping into the bonus scenes. Was there anything that I missed that anyone wants to bring up? Even a teeny tiny little moment or little line that you all liked?
Flourish.
Yes.
I was so hoping that, there would be some reference to the fact that, this was his magical skills again. And the fact that he used that flourish, the same line that Vision had used, perfect. And also, just, let's give Randall Park some love in this episode. Didn't have a lot to do, but we got to see, the resourceful Jimmy Woo. We got to see him, trick Hayward into monologuing his evil plan, get free, call in the reserves, and, ultimately, save the day and take control at the end. It was great for him.
That is true. That is true. Yeah. Flourish. Fantastic. Okay, so before I get into the final two scenes, I do have a question, because it's something that I was wondering as I was watching this, and I already have the answer in my head, but I was wondering if we all sort of have the same answer. Okay, so WandaVision, from what like Kevin Feige and others have said, they're making these Disney Plus shows, but they've said in essence it's not must watch type of thing. They were, I think Kevin Feige was one that said something to the gist of, we don't want people to feel like you have to watch everything to fully understand everything. If you watch WandaVision, that's good because it does sort of lead into the films, but if you're just watching the films, you don't necessarily have to have seen WandaVision. So my question, now that we've seen it all, would you all agree with that? Do you feel that WandaVision is a good standalone production? And I will say that I read this fascinating article on TV Line where someone was like, the person that wrote the article was like, I'm not a fan of the MCU. I've only seen maybe one or two movies, but I'm in love with WandaVision. So there are people out there that have been able to just watch WandaVision as a standalone thing. Would we agree that WandaVision works as a standalone production? And or do we also agree that that WandaVision is a nice, almost like additional reading type of production as well for those of us that do enjoy the MCU?
I think it could be a way in for someone who's not a big viewer. Again, I mentioned listening to Kevin Smith, and something that he's been talking about, or the run of WandaVision, is that his wife, who has no interest in superhero films or anything like that, he can't get her to watch them. Is absolutely hooked on WandaVision, and watches it with him as soon as it comes out, and it's gotten her to start watching the MCU movies because because then he could say, well, and here's where this character and there's where this began, and everything like that. So yeah, I think it is fairly self-contained. I think, they did a pretty good job of filling in the backstory and in the previous leads and the recaps and stuff like that. For me, it works better as supplementary. And I think, I think you could regard it as semi-essential just because, if you are, watching the MCU in the future and a white vision shows up, well, where'd that come from? Or you see the Scarlet Witch suddenly doing chaos magic. I think it's essential. Now that said, no movie is essential. You didn't have to watch Ant-Man and the Wasp in order to appreciate Infinity War and Endgame. But I think they're all parts of a larger whole. So I think you do want to see them all. I think if regardless of whether you're a completist or you just want to know where those characters and storylines came from. I do think I would disagree with Kevin Feige. I think you do have to watch this one. I think it is going to be important. Now that said, something like Loki, on the other hand, probably won't be because Loki is apparently off, in different times and other things like that. But this one I feel was important, not just because it's clearly setting up Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but because, it did make some pretty significant changes to a number of characters, as well as introducing, a superhero that we're going to see again. So I think it's more essential than he's letting on.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think maybe some of the Disney Plus series won't be essential. Like Loki, I think is probably the best example. I feel like Falcon and the Winter Soldier will also be essential viewing, especially if you want to follow along with both of those characters' storylines, and I'm sure the characters will have immense growth, at least we hope, by the end of that series' run, and then maybe there might be some changes there. So I think some series will probably be essential and others maybe not as much. Priscilla, what about you? Your thoughts on just WandaVision being accepted as a standalone type of thing, or do you think it will be required viewing for people?
I don't think it needs to be required viewing for people. I've talked to a lot of people who like old-timey TV shows like Dick Van Dyke and stuff like that, and they saw something on Disney Plus that looked associated with that, with WandaVision at the very beginning, and got hooked on the series based solely on that, and liked the series but aren't necessarily interested in going into the backlog of Marvel, and just when asked how did you understand a little bit more, they just went, okay, well, I just looked into Marvel Legends, or I just Wikipedia'd it. And I think it's fine, like, as is. Like, I don't think you necessarily need to do a backlog and watch everything to understand everything in WandaVision necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think for future movies like Doctor Strange and stuff like that, like, or a movie where Blank Vision is going to come out, I think they're going to explain a little bit of it, but they're not going to go into full detail in the movie, and I think it'll be fine as is.
Yeah, I think what we will probably be getting in future productions is sort of like the flashbacks that we got on WandaVision. I mean, we got the majority of them in the previous Leons, but I could see in a film, as a character is explaining something, we'll see flashes of clips from WandaVision. Maybe explaining something, whether it's Scarlet Witch and her powers, maybe who Agatha is, potentially White Vision, wherever he ends up showing up. I could see them showing clips and stuff like that, just really quick flashes. And that's how they explain things. We do also have to remember WandaVision is legitimately like the biggest show that's out right now. I read an article that basically said that it's like second to The Mandalorian as far as popularity online, streams, views, and all that kind of stuff. It crashed Disney Plus's site twice. It was the series finale and then episode 7, I believe, were the two episodes that crashed Disney Plus basically at the launch time for the new episode. It mostly affected West Coast viewers. So, yeah, there was a lot of bitching on Twitter about Disney Plus not working and people wanting to watch WandaVision. So there was that. WandaVision was a big damn deal and a huge success for Disney Plus. It was continuously trending, like from when the episode hit to multiple days afterwards. You know, just random hashtags. You know, Wanda, Scarlet Witch, Agatha all along. It will just randomly show up in the top 10 of like trending stuff. It's crazy how insanely popular this series became. So, let's talk about the future. Let's talk about that first, well, it wasn't an end credit scene. It's a mid-credit scene now. The first scene that we see is Monica Rambeau. We get a little Jimmy Woo action. Monica gets called away because it's debrief time and somebody wants to speak to you in the theater. This agent ends up turning into a Skrull. And she's like, you know, a friend of your mom wants to speak with you. She points up, you know, that, you know, where, and she points up. And we get a little smirk from Monica. Clearly, this is setting up Captain Marvel 2 and maybe even the Secret Invasion series, potentially. Just thoughts. I know there really isn't much to say of it because it's just a mid-credit scene, but you know, are we excited that we got a little taste of maybe what we're going to see in Captain Marvel 2? Question mark?
Heck yes. I totally am like, is that Steve, is that Samuel L. Jackson's call to arms here with the little alien going down to visit Monica? Was that the little alien that was playing with her when she was a little girl?
Yes, people were like, is that Talos's daughter? And I'm like, oh my god, that would be really nice. Like, there was no familiarity between them. But maybe also Monica maybe was like, is that you? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would she assume? But yeah, some people online were like, is that her?
You can't be all aliens look alike.
I know, right?
That's speciesist.
I know, right? Yeah. Professor, what about you? Anything to add? Were you excited by the mid-credits moment?
I liked it. I liked the fact that we did get, you know, a little Skrull tease because I had been hoping for that all along, given her past. I don't know whether it's, you know, Nick Fury is the person who wanted to talk to her or whether it's Talos himself who could be. Because remember, Nick just blipped back 3 weeks ago or maybe a month maximum. You know, that's probably not enough time for him to go into space and set all this stuff up. So just from a timing point of view, it seems unlikely.
Very true. No, I'm thinking of the timeline in a weird way because Spider-Man Far From Home was a couple months after everything. So, yes. So that was probably Talos. You're 100% right. Yeah, because this was just a couple weeks. I hope so.
Again, Ben Mendelsohn is another one of those characters that I just love. He's so great. And yeah, so, you know, if we might get him in Captain Marvel 2, that would be great as well.
Yes, but I 100% agree. Based off the timeline, it was probably Talos that called her up. And then the final scene that we got in the episode, which was our first ever on WandaVision post-credits scene, we see, as Priscilla described, it's Wanda in a cabin, far off, with beautiful snowy mountains in the background, and we see her in basically sweats making tea, and we see her astral projected self studying the Darkhold in a very familiar way for anyone out there that's ever seen Doctor Strange. The interesting thing, though, is that Stephen Strange, the way that he could astral project to study was he had to do it while he was asleep. Wanda can do it while she's wide awake, because remember, as Agatha said, she's more powerful than the Sorcerer Supreme. And while she's studying and all that kind of stuff, she hears her kids, Billy and Tommy, screaming for help. So clearly, this is a setup to Doctor Strange 2. We're going to go into the multiverse of madness in the multiverse, whatever. Yeah, what did we think of it? Are we excited? And I will add this on as a supplemental question. We all thought, there has to be a cameo from Doctor Strange. And there wasn't. Were we disappointed that there wasn't an actual cameo from Doctor Strange? Were we fine with it? Were we fine with him not showing up? Yeah, let's talk about the very final scene of WandaVision. Professor?
Well, as I said previously, I'm not disappointed from the fan service of I don't think we needed Cumberbatch in there. I think it would have been, if you're looking for, a cameo, he was a logical person to be there. And as I've said before, the fact that he didn't show up for this entire time means he's a pretty happy Sorcerer Supreme. I realize he also just flipped back and dealt with Thanos. And in comic books, they just, hey, true believers, don't worry. Doc Strange is just off battling Dormammu in the dark dimensions. He'll be back. So that will probably be an explanation that will have to come in, within a couple of lines. I heard what happened in Westview. Sorry, I couldn't be there. I was off, again, fighting Dormammu in the dimensions or whatever. So yeah, I do think that, they should have. And again, maybe, if it wasn't COVID times, they could have done something like that. I did like that. Yes, I caught the subtle hint to Doctor Strange that, she's doing the same trick, but she's a little more powerful. It's a little disturbing that the only book she's reading is the evil one. That can't be good. And as long as we're talking about the future, my guess, I think it's, again, it's one of those obvious ones is that, that's not really Tommy and Billy, or if it is, it's Nightmare using them to reach out and manipulate her.
Oh, all right. We got a bold prediction about the future already. I like it. I do think Doctor Strange was probably a COVID consequence. The fact that we didn't see him. I think if this was filmed in normal times, we would have had a Cumberbatch cameo. Was it needed? No. And a lot of people online were also, once again, the gimme people were very pissed off that we didn't see Doctor Strange. I think out of all the characters, he would have made the most sense. And even if it was just him showing up when the hex is lifted and him having a talk with Wanda, maybe if it was Doctor Strange sort of saying that to Wanda as opposed to Monica, it would have made more sense because Doctor Strange wouldn't have been there. You know what I'm saying? And it would have been Doctor Strange trying to give Monica a pep talk, but then Doctor Strange trying to give Wanda a pep talk, but Wanda accepting what she had done. Maybe that would have made a little bit more sense with that scene that Monica had to do instead. But yeah, I think Stephen, it would have been important for him to be there, just because, what did you say, Professor, in the previous episode? That, how did Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, not feel something weird, an immense amount of power coming from Westview, when clearly Agatha did? So hopefully they do explain it away in Doctor Strange 2.
Now, having said that, if the idea is that, you bring in Doctor Strange to have that little speech that Monica had, it would have gone very differently with Doctor Strange, because Doctor Strange would have been, by the crimson bands of Siderac, I bind you because you're a powerful and dangerous person that can't be allowed to leave. And then we would have had another magical fight breaking out. So I can kind of understand from a story point of view, because we're sort of assuming that Doctor Strange would come in and, everything's fine. No, Doctor Strange would have stepped in and gone, what the fuck, dude? You can't be allowed to wander around with all this power.
That is true. Yeah, they don't. I think in my mind, because they were in the Avengers movies together, as I'm thinking that they have a better relationship. But now that I'm thinking about it, they don't really know each other. So
no, they really don't. They would have met for the first time at Tony's funeral. So
that is true. No, so you're right. Okay, so I read an interesting opinion online where someone basically was like, it's probably best that Steven didn't show up, just because, these Disney Plus series should be able to live on their own merits, as opposed to just, milking a big cameo like that. And I was like, you know what, I think you sold it for me. Like, I understand that. And at the end of the day, it is Wanda and Vision. It's WandaVision. So it made sense that Steven wasn't there. Priscilla, I know you gave a little bit of your opinion. Do you have anything to add as far as what the Scarlet Witch is doing at the end? And since the professor gave a little tease of what he thinks is going to happen, do you have any theories?
I just wanted to add a little bit of info to it, that they used Doctor Strange's music for the background of this clip, and I really liked that they did. It's kind of sort of putting his like feel into the series without actually having him there. So that was nice. And I feel like they're going to have Nightmare or somebody else be like the next,
maybe Mephisto,
the next
finally.
series, and that he's holding the kids hostage, their souls hostage, and the only way to get them back is to go through the multiverse of madness to be able to like reach out and like grab the kids.
It's an interesting theory. I mean, there is a comic book like precedent when it comes to something like that. I believe there is a storyline where she has to do something to get the kids back after the kids disappear or something like that. We don't have to go into it fully, Professor, but that is a storyline, right, in the comics?
Yeah, the storyline gets confusing because the twins were technically never real. They were manifestations of Mephisto, who brought them back, leading to a very creepy scene in which they became his arms, which I think was,
I've seen that image.
Maybe they were doing that scene where Agnes was up there, with the purple tethers around their necks. That could have been a little callback to that famous panel. But yeah, my guess, and again, I would probably say it was Mephisto if we didn't know that Nightmare was going to be the big bad for Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness. So, but yeah, I think they're probably going to copy a little bit of that. And now that she has all this power, she becomes a resource to potentially be exploited by entities like Nightmare. And, so that might lead to the situation whether she, goes off to Doctor Strange asking for help, or Doctor Strange, comes in because, there's the danger that she'll be manipulated, because of her feeling, her trying to rescue the kids. But I think it does give him a logical in to involve them. And I look forward to that. I mean, we didn't get Elizabeth Olsen interacting with Benedict Cumberbatch in this series, but we can look forward to it in Multiverse of Madness, and I think that's going to be great. Two really good actors playing off each other.
Oh yes, 100%. Yeah. Okay, so we didn't really talk about it, but just the Darkhold. I know Priscilla was like, oh, she's reading from that book. How dare she? And you know what? I kind of understand why she's reading from it, because Agatha spoke so much about her in the damn book. So if she's trying to understand herself, and one of the lines that she did say to Monica before she flew away, well, before she walked and then flew, was that, she doesn't even know what she is, what her powers are, and that sort of thing. So I kind of get that she would be curious about that. Based off of, all of us here saw Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so based off of what we learned on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. about the Darkhold, is that it is a bad book, and, you're not supposed to open it. Now, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and that mythology and that usage of the Darkhold is clearly not the route that the MCU proper is going to be doing when it comes to the Darkhold. But do either of you have any information about the Darkhold, and is it really a bad idea for the Scarlet Witch to be reading it?
Well, she doesn't have a lot of other options. She doesn't, have her own magical library she can call upon. So I like the fact that she is studying it, trying to understand her power. Maybe don't go to the evil book. But it does have a whole chapter about you. And let's face it, if any of us found out there was a book, that mentioned us, we'd be flipping to the index to find, where we were mentioned in the book anyway. It's a very human thing.
True. Priscilla, what about you? Any additional thoughts on the Darkhold?
Like, it's a human thing, but she's a superhero. She's supposed to be better than that.
Oh my gosh.
Like, she's there. She has access to the Sorcerer Supreme. Why the hell didn't she go to him and ask him, hey, in all of your travels, in all of the travels of your students that have gone through, have any of them heard of something called the Scarlet Witch? Because apparently that's what I am, and I need to find out more about myself. Like,
and then he'll be like, "You're the Scarlet Witch. Let's lock you up." That's funny.
But she needs to find out, like, in a healthy way, not by using the fucking Darkhold.
Well, true. That book is no bueno. It's not good. But the Darkhold does lead us to Chthon. Maybe. At some point. Somewhere. Yes. Okay. All right. So before we get into MVP and before we start to rate this episode, so now we've seen WandaVision. We've given our sort of ideas in about the future, but was there anything else from the series that sort of inspires ideas from where some of these characters can go? Like, do we have, I know, well, maybe not, but I mean, there's still White Vision out there. We've got Jimmy and Darcy reintroduced after not seeing them for a moment. We have Monica. Clearly, she's setting up potentially Captain Marvel 2 and Secret Invasion. Was there anything that we saw throughout the series that just inspired an idea of like where we might see some of these characters again in the future? Usually at this point, when we come to like a season finale, we're always talking about the next season. Clearly, WandaVision is not going to have another season. Will there be another Disney Plus series with maybe Wanda as a star, or Vision as a star, or maybe even Wanda and Vision as a star? Potentially, maybe, who knows? But there won't be another WandaVision. You know what I'm saying? So, was there anything, could you see this series setting up anything else? Just asking.
Well, people were spouting undercurrents of maybe having like kind of like an X-Files-ish sort of like series with Jimmy Woo and Darcy, and that had a lot of traction at the time. And I thought it was a damn good idea. I'm hoping that could be brought to light and brought into the Disney Plus series, just because they have such great chemistry together, and she's not doing anything considering Love and Thunder didn't call her to work on there. She's posting on Instagram like all the time and posting nothing from Love and Thunder, so
do you really think that means that she might not be there? I mean, come on. I will say this about Kat Dennings. In an interview, she did allude to the fact that we would be seeing Darcy more. And she couldn't say what projects she was involved in. But she did say that she would be popping up in interesting places. So I was happy about that, because when was the last time we saw Darcy? Thor 2? That horrible one? No offense to anybody that liked it.
Yeah, that was a horrible movie.
And when was that? Like, that was a long time ago. A long time ago. So, yeah, I hope to see more of Darcy and more of Jimmy. And I would love to see Jimmy get a promotion. For the longest, I always thought he was like S.H.I.E.L.D. or something, and he's just an FBI agent. So if they bring back or introduce another Marvel... what would you call it? Like a bureaucratic agency. I'd love for Jimmy Woo to be a part of it.
Well, he'll probably be in the next Ant-Man movie, Quantumania, because he's sort of part of that.
Yeah, could you imagine?
As I said earlier, I would love to see an Agatha Harkness magical mystery tour through the ages. She's got 300 years of history that she could be dealing with. I think that could be delightful. Aside from that, no, I think we've pretty much touched on everything we would expect. There is comic book tradition of Vision and the Scarlet Witch, because the white emotionless Vision is comic book accurate, and the way they dealt with it in the comics was Wanda having to come to terms with the fact that even though her husband was still there physically, he didn't feel anything, and yada yada. It feels very Arrowverse, quite frankly. I'm hoping they don't go that route, just because Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen play off each other so well. But it was when he was when he was Wanda's Vision, not when he was the colder Vision. And while I think his portrayal of the colder Vision is fine and great, and I hope he stays part of the MCU and keeps getting those paychecks, I don't think we'd have the same chemistry between them because it would be a different Vision.
True. We didn't even talk about that moment when White Vision nearly cracked her head like a walnut. That
was so creepy.
Yes, and all the cracks and stuff. I was like, oh Lord, she's gonna get squeezed like a damn grape. Yeah, that looked painful. I loved his line though. They said you were powerful. I was like,
He should have been able to crack her head a lot quicker though. Like it should have just been one little. I know when I'm cracking people's heads, I always do it quickly, just to stop me from being stopped. Also, if his hands were, like that much of a vice on her head, when other Vision came in and flew by and hit him, he would have carried her along with him. Yeah, she wouldn't have just been left behind. But
you're not supposed to think logically like Priscilla thinks.
A part of me just wonders why he doesn't just phase through her and just like solidify. Would that have killed her a lot faster?
Lord.
He was doing a little supervillain posing.
Yes. Well, it's the first time he meets her. You know what I'm saying? You got to take it slow before you solidify inside her.
I don't know. I'm thinking like Mortal Kombat and endings and shit like that.
Well, you'll see that on HBO Max in about 2 months. Or in a month now. Yes. Yeah. All right. So now it is time for the MVP, the most valuable player. State which character impressed you throughout the episode and why. Once a character has been chosen, they cannot be selected again, so choose wisely. Okay. Let's see. Actually, I don't remember.
Why don't you give yourself a treat, Jeff? You've allowed us to go first every time. Why don't you go first and pick the one you obviously want to pick?
That's so very nice of you to say.
Yes, I agree.
Wow. Oh. I hardly ever go first. And usually when I pick myself first, it's because I'm selfishly doing it. All right. I am going to pick Elizabeth Olsen. I'm going to pick Wanda Maximoff. I just loved her throughout the episode. Genre programming, it's very difficult for genre series to be nominated for Emmys. But there are many actors on the show that I think should get nominations, but if there's anyone that I really think deserves 100% a win, that's Elizabeth Olsen. She did a phenomenal job throughout the entire series, and she brought it in this episode. The emotions, just everything about it. Like, I was on the edge of my seat just watching her. She was brilliant. Because this is, I would assume that they would call this a limited series. I hope that she gets nominated as a lead actress in a limited series. And I hope that she wins. I feel like she 100% deserves it. She put in the work, and I loved it. All right, Priscilla, you can go next. Who's your MVP and why?
Yay! Thank you. And to your Wanda, I pick Vision because I loved the whole Ship of Theseus argument to its successful conclusion of restoring the Vision as he should be, as White Vision, Blank Vision. I don't know what they're gonna call him, but as the Vision,
Single Vision.
Yes. Not cataract anymore.
Yeah.
But
cured Vision.
I loved that, and I loved the ending scene. I loved seeing the care in his voice when he talked to Wanda and he's like, "What am I?" And when he basically bid her goodbye, saying, like, "We'll meet again at some point." That was beautiful, and I loved it, and I just hope that we see more of him as Red Vision, because as much as I like White Vision, I'm going to miss Red Vision.
They can give him a paint job, right? No? Okay. They can call him Clear Vision. You put the Visine in and you got Clear Vision. Yeah. Sorry, Professor. I apologize for the Juno humor. Wait, what were you going to say, Priscilla? Okay, nothing.
Beautiful,
Okay.
clear vision.
Yes. Professor, your MVP.
Well, just to put an end to all the slander that you two were trying to spread,
Oh.
of not liking Catherine Hahn, she's obviously the third star. There were some great supporting roles, but more for the quieter moments, not when she was standing screaming exposition at people, but when we got the close-ups, that closing scene with her was tremendous. The scene where Wanda got into her mind, just the very subtle facial gestures that Catherine Hahn does. No, she was so good. Just a tremendous actress. It's difficult to imagine anyone playing that role as well as she did.
100% facts. And I will say both of you have given the MVP to two people that I think should be at least nominated for Emmys, period. We'll see what happens in the fall, but hopefully WandaVision gets some love because, man, just everything was spectacular, including the three actors that we picked as our MVPs for this episode. So now it's time to rate the episode. How would you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10 televisions? The point system is allowed, and if you found the episode exceptional, deserving of more than a 10, you may grant the episode the coveted golden television. So let's start off with you, Professor.
No, I think, Jeff, you should go first again. You're always just lying back in the cut, waiting to see what we do, and then you either copy us or you split the difference between us. Let's just put it on the line here. You go first this time.
Okay, I love it. Are you being all Agatha to my Wanda? I feel like you are. All right, he put the runes up, Priscilla. So I will go first. Okay, I liked the episode. I completely hear the quibbles, and I've read all the feedback online, and some people really enjoyed it, and some people had problems because their theories did not become a reality. I didn't have a problem with the episode. I thought it was fantastic from beginning to end. I really enjoyed it upon the second viewing because after sort of realizing some stuff and then seeing it again and just realizing even more. I just noticed so much more upon every rewatch as I have with other episodes. So I am going to give this episode a 9.5. I think that's the best number for it, for me. 9.5 televisions. Professor, now you go next.
I agree. It was not the strongest episode of the lot. I think episode 7 and episode 8 were better. But I found it very satisfying. I thought it wrapped things up nicely and was a fine episode in its own right. But, we have talked about, some, the niggling little complaints about it that I think made it, not as good as the best episodes. But I think 9.5, I think it was a very solid episode. I watched it a second time and it was just as good. So, I think it's a perfectly satisfactory grade.
Yes. All right, Priscilla, what about you? What's your take on the episode? How would you rate this episode?
I wouldn't give it a 9.5. I'd give it a 9, just because I didn't particularly like the last last ending, the one that hints at Doctor Strange and the multiverse of madness, and I really didn't like the Hayward Monica fight scene. I thought that was just sloppily handled. But other than that, that's what the 1 point is dinged off of. Everything else was perfect. I loved it. Ship of Theseus, Ralph Boner, the ending, the goodbye, the little kids getting a fight. It was perfect.
Yeah. I will say this, and it's something we have mentioned on occasion, but since this is the final episodic discussion that we're having, the series was incredibly cinematic. Like this final episode was in essence what we would have gotten as like the final act of a big screen MCU feature. And the fact that they were able to do that and give it to us on Disney Plus, which is, just a streaming service. In essence, this is a television show. I mean, props to them. The fact that they were able to do that, just kudos. And it really is a testament to like what we're going to see on Disney Plus with these official MCU television series. So if this is just the beginning, I can't wait to see what they do next, especially with the visuals. Like, I just can't imagine what Loki is going to look like, that television series. It's going to look fantastic. So, all right, my co-hosts and listeners, it's that time. It's the end of the season, so we're going to grade the season of WandaVision. A, B, C, D, F, pluses and minuses are allowed. So let's start off with Priscilla. How would you grade Disney Plus's very first Marvel television series, WandaVision?
Well, we've had a lot of ups and downs with WandaVision, but mostly it's been up. So I really can't give this season anything lower than an A. Like, it's just really good television. It was the lowest I've ever given an episode is a B, I think, and that was once maybe, but like just the whole season in general was, once you see it as a whole, it's got great rewatchability. And seeing it from the beginning, you see a beautiful homage to American television mixed with Marvel, sort of, with all of these like little tidbits and and Easter eggs for you to keep you company while you're just sitting there chewing at your fingers, wondering what the hell's going to happen next. We need to know more. And then when it finally hits you, it's such a big hit that you have to give it a golden television because it's just so good. And then you keep going, and it's just perfect television from then on out. Like, it really is just really good television. I can't give it anything lower than an A.
All right, starting off strong. Professor X, what about you? How would you grade this season of WandaVision?
I think I have to give it an A plus. I was desperately waiting for each new episode to come out. When each one ended, I just wanted to talk about it and figure out what had happened and speculate and really just watch the next episode. I think this was a tremendous, first out of the gate for, the Disney Plus Marvel TV shows. And honestly, I don't see how the Falcon and the Winter Soldier can live up to it. This was just really, really good and funny at times, but very mature and grown up and dealing with, mature themes, grief and dealing with grief, not, ooh, I want that shiny stone, or I want to punch you in the face. A very smart grown up series with a lot of fun and a lot of heart, humor, and spectacle. So I thought it was, an A plus.
And I'm going to give the series an A plus. It was a fantastic first Marvel series for Disney Plus. What a fantastic series. It was magical. It was fun. It was heartwarming. It tugged at the heartstrings. Everybody brought their A game. The entire cast was fantastic. The visuals were superb. The story was amazing. This was the very first Marvel series on Disney Plus, and wow, they just knocked it out the park. What a superb job from beginning to end. The writers, the creators, they really took their love of television and they were able to convey it in such a marvelous way. Like, no pun intended. We're talking about a Marvel series, and I said marvelous. But it was simply marvelous. So an A plus from me. And I don't know if we will see any of these characters. Well, that's a lie. We will be seeing these characters again. I don't know if we will ever see WandaVision, the television series, again. But, wow, we will be able to revisit it for years to come on Disney Plus. And on that note, we would like to thank everyone for joining us these past 9 episodes. Here's our announcer to remind you on how you can interact with us.
Follow Poppy Chula Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, @Poppy Chula Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@poppychularadio.com. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chula Radio team as an on-air personality? Email talent@poppychularadio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chula Radio programs by visiting poppychularadio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through Apple Podcasts and Google Play. Just search for The Avengers Initiative, WandaVision, and subscribe.
Thanks, announcer. My co-hosts, for the final time this season, please wish the listeners a good night, starting off with Priscilla.
Okie dokie, artichoke. Goodbye, everybody.
And the professor.
Oh, if you come to me first, I was going to say, no, Jeff, I think you should sign off first this time. Good night, everyone.
Brilliant. Thanks for tuning in. From all of us here at the Avengers Initiative, WandaVision, we wish you a good night.